Hello again, I'm Blunty, and while exploring a big-ass camera store in Japan recently, I snatched up these two little buggers. They're little stick-on effect lenses for camera phones, and they set me back about 450 yen each, which is about $5 in Aussie dollary-doos. There's this one, which is a polarizing filter, and it works the same way polarizing sunglasses do, and it's for cutting through glare and reflections. We'll take a look at some examples of this in a moment. Contestant number 2 is a star filter. Basically, it's a bit of plastic with a cross-hatch pattern scored into it, and when you pop it on your camera, it does some interesting things with points of light. Both have a ring of sticky, rubbery goo stuff to quickly and easily attach it and mount it onto pretty much any camera phone out there, and probably even your game devices and things, anything with a little lens in it basically, and it sticks pretty securely too. As you saw, it's very, very sticky and gooey. They're also fantastic at collecting pocket lint, so despite the intent of the design to be hung from your keys, or perhaps as a lanyard mount on some phones to keep them handy at all times, my recommendation is to keep them in a nice little lint-free pouch. And that's pretty much all there is to them, so let's look at what they do to your photos and video when you stick them on a camera. First up, the star filter. The cliche with these, of course, is usually candlelight, to make the flame glow a little bit more romantically, and those trademark star filter shafts of light streaking out from the light source. Basically, any bright point of light will now twinkle, glitter and glow, and in this case, due to the cheap plastic nature of this filter, it also softens up the image a bit, lending a bit more of that glowing romantic aesthetic. Street lights in the early morning and droplets of water with a strong light source nearby are also pretty targets for the star filter. The filter can also spin. It doesn't spin particularly smoothly, again because it's a cheap little toy lens, but that ability does allow you the creative freedom to align the 4 shafts of light to your liking. If you're particularly careful and steady-handed, doing so in live video can also add a little extra movement to a scene. Particularly neat, I thought, if you expose for the highs in a scene with a whole bunch of lights. But again, its cheap plasticky build makes this very difficult to do smoothly. Take the lens off again and you can see it kind of sucks the magic out of things, like the sun glinting on water. Suddenly boring, isn't it? As I mentioned, you do lose quite a bit of image sharpness with this filter, and that soft romantic blur isn't always desirable, and the effect itself isn't always the right way to go either. As with all special effects, restraint will serve you best. You hear that, Instagram users? Restraint! Learn the word! Next up, the polarizer, which, while not really an effect lens like the star filter, is perhaps much more useful more often, especially if you like to shoot landscapes. Using a polarizer, you can cut right through a lot of glare. You can also use it to intensify the color and contrast of a sky and clouds for a more dramatic and less washed out look. Don't be mistaken, this isn't simply darkening the scene, it's literally blocking out light coming in at different polarization angles. And as you can see here, as I twist the polarizer around, it changes the intensity and effectiveness of this filtering depending on the polarization of the light coming in. Not a terribly useful thing to do in video because it makes it go all blinky and crap, unless of course you're demonstrating the effect. But it does mean you can adjust it to completely eliminate the glaring in many circumstances. It's particularly terrific on plants, for example, to kill that shiny hotspot you so often get on leaves without changing the proper exposure for the rest of the scene. They're also useful for cutting down reflections when you're trying to photograph something through a window or in a glass cabinet and the like. So there you go, 2 cheap little lenses for your camera phone, one fun, one useful, both tiny and light enough to go with you everywhere you go, so you've always got some extra tools handy for getting creative with. I got mine in Japan, but you will also find them in some stores or markets if you hunt in the right places, and you can usually find them online if you search for jelly lenses, jelly because of the jelly gooey sticky thing on there they're usually called. There are more effects and lens types available too, like a fisheye lens effect, which is also a bit of fun to play with. Anyway, I'm Blunty, thanks for watching, have fun with your phonography, God I hate that word, and I'll catch you next time.